What's up, everybody? So today, I'm here with Little Man, and we're going to show you how to make a proper Ashiok deck. If you guys remember, or if you haven't seen or have seen, the pre-release deck for the Ashiok's Planeswalker for the Theros Beyond Death was absolute garbage. So I took it upon myself to make a proper Ashiok deck, a nightmare deck. That's what we're going to call this, a nightmare deck. There is 61 cards in here. You'll see that. The reason for that is I have an artwork Ashiok, and what I'm going to do is make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, and by Easter, that's a good time, I'm going to go ahead and give a random winner this deck that I made. That's why there's 61 cards in there, because the special card, the Ashiok Planeswalker art card, is worth more than the entire deck. So if you don't like what I got, then at least you got a card that's the art's beautiful on it, and it's worth more than the entire deck. He's ready. Alright, so let me show you how this deck is made. So as always, you want to start with your lands. Ashiok is blue and black. So you want to get 10 islands, 10 swamps, and then you need a search card. We're not doing fetch cards, we're doing search cards. So you need Unknown Shores coming out of the Theros Beyond deck. It adds you a 1 colorless mana, so you can make this whatever color you want. So it's kind of a fetch land, but you're not looking for land, you're just adding a color. And then for 1 and whatever, you can add 1 of any color. So you're adding any color with these guys, colorless or any color. So you need him. Not really. You can take him out if you wanted to run all 60 of these, and I would make 60, and this would be your 61 that you're throwing out. But if you want to throw him in there, this is the card that I'm adding that is worth more than here. The Ashiok's Nightmare Muse. The borderless alternate art Planeswalker card. He is, and this one is a 5 cost. For your +1 ability, create a 2/3 blue and black nightmare creature token with, whenever this creature attacks or blocks, each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library. His -3, his middle one, is return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then that player exiles a card from their hand. And then your ulti, your -7, is you may cast up to 3 face-up cards your opponent's own from exile without paying a cost. So, terrific card if you wanted to play that. Terrific card, especially for how Ashiok runs, which is stealing your opponent's cards from their graveyard. But this is a nightmare deck, so we went beyond that. Alright, so we're going to throw him to the side since he is special. Your next one, there's going to be a lot of Ashiok Planeswalkers. Your next one is the Ashiok Sculptor of Fears for a 6 cost. His +2, draw a card. Each player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Your -5, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Your -11, gain control of all creatures your target opponent controls. Gain control of all. Look at that. You got 2 controls here for Planeswalkers. Add your Ashiok Nightmare Weaver for a 3 cost. This one's the low one. An original one from Theros. Planeswalker Ashiok. For your +2, exile the top 3 cards of your target opponent's library for whatever cost you want, your neg account, and that's coming from here, so neg 3 if you wanted. Put a creature card with converted mana cost X, exiled when with Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, onto the battlefield under your control. That creature is a nightmare in addition to its other types. A nightmare just means that Ashiok controls it, because he controls nightmares. And then your neg 10, exile all cards from your opponent's hands and graveyard, so everything gets banished. So, moving on. Your Ashiok Dream Render from Theros Beyond Death. He is a 3-cost, and spells and abilities your opponent's control can't cause their controller to search their library. So that's an anti-searcher, and it's a no-cost. Your -1, your ulti, if you will, your -1, you can do it 5 times with him. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Then exile each opponent's graveyard. So you're going to get rid of 20 cards with this one. Good card. Ashiok's getting a nightmare. So there's your Ashioks. Now you want to throw in some Perplex, a 3-cost. It is an instant. This one's amazing. Counter target spell unless its controller discards his or her hands. And then it has a transmute cost for 3. The 3-cost transmute cost, discard this card. Search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as the card. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Play only as a sorcery. So the transmute changes a card into a sorcery for whatever it is, and you can play it as a sorcery instead of whatever else. Not too bad. Perplex though, get rid of a hand or counter a target spell unless the opponent gets rid of his hand. Good one. Really, really good one. Etrata the Silencer for a 4-cost, and this one is the alternate art foil. Legendary creature, vampire assassin. Etrata the Silencer can't be blocked. If you're not familiar with Etrata, she's a game ender. When you get her out, it's game over. Whenever Etrata deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls, and put a hits counter on that card. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them. Etrata's owner shuffles Etrata into their library. So if you play with multiple, once that player loses the game, boom, back in there, boom, bring her back out. So she's gonna kill a person who they're gonna attack. They're gonna get a hit counter. They're gonna exile a card. They get 3 of those. They lose the game. She's mean. She's a nightmare. She's a game ender. Speaking of game enders, we got another game ender. So, Mirko Vosk, the Mind Drinker, for a 5-cost vampire legendary creature with flying. So he's hard to block. Whenever Mirko Vosk, the Mind Drinker, deals combat damage to a player, that player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals 4 land cards, then puts those cards into his or her graveyard. So this one could potentially just mill out an entire person. It could mill them out until they get 4. I mean, that fourth one could be the very last card, and then everything gets put into a library. That's a mill. That is a nightmare. Ashiok's Erasure for a 4-cost. The enchantment with flash, so you can play it whenever. It has instant on it. So when Ashiok's Erasure enters the battlefield, exile target spell. Your opponents can't cast spells with the same name as the exiled card, and everything's a spell. Remember, so if they're playing a goblin deck that gets rid of goblins, when Ashiok's Erasure leaves the battlefield, return the exile card to its owner's hand. So they gotta get rid of that enchantment to be able to play their things back. Nightmare. Ashiok's Forerunner, you're going to be running 2 of these for a 5-cost, and it has flash, creature, human, wizard, and when she enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for your Ashiok Sculptor of Fears, reveal it, and then put it in your hand. If you search it this way, if you search your library this way, you shuffle. You want 2 of those, and that's just going to get your Ashiok, one of your Ashioks out. This is gonna make people not want to discard cards. You're gonna run you a couple of these. Mirror Maid. You may have Mirror Maid enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. So you got 1, 2. Get you 2 of those, so you can copy possibly this Planeswalker, the Ob Nixilis, the Hate Twisted for a 5 cost. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Ob Nixilis, the Hate Twisted, deals 1 damage to that player. So every time they draw a card, they're taking life. Don't worry about the ulti, destroy target creature, its controller controls. You're not worrying about that. You're just wanting them out there to do that because that is nothing, and they are dying every time. You can copy him, so they're losing 2 life every time they draw 1 card. Folio of Fancies, going to run 1 of these, an artifact. Player has no maximum hand size, players, and for your 2x cost and a tap, each player draws X amount of cards. X is the amount that you want to spend on that, or whatever you say it is. Anyway, since there's not a cost. And then for your 3 blue, each opponent puts a number of cards equal to the number of cards in their hand on the top of their library into their graveyard. So if you get that one out fast and they've got 7 cards, you're taking 7 cards off of that and putting it in there. That's one that you don't have to worry about, but then they're drawing, so you can throw that on there, and if they're drawing that many, boom. They're losing life every time they draw a card. Losing 7, if they will. Mirror Maid can copy that. Underworld Dreams for a 3 cost. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. So that's another one that they're losing life for drawing cards. They're killing themselves just for playing. Gonna run 2 of those. Swimmer in Nightmares. Again, you're going back to the Nightmare for a 3 cost. Nightmare Merfolk. Swimmer in Nightmares gets a +3/+0 as long as there are 10 or more cards in a single graveyard. So this one's a late game play. Swimmer in Nightmares can't be blocked as long as you control an Ashiok's Planeswalker. And you've got 5 of them, so he can never be blocked because he's a nightmare. Opportunity for your 6 cost. He's an instant. Target player draws 4 cards. Drawing 4 cards, losing 4 life, and possibly more, depending on what you got on there. You can make them lose the game that way. Allied Strategies for a 5 cost. Target player draws a card for each basic land type among the lands he or she controls. Losing life again, making them draw cards. Unexplained Disappearances for a 2 cost. Return a target creature to its owner's hand. Surveil 1, look at the top card of your library and put that card into your graveyard. Or you may put that card into your graveyard. So that one's just returning cards. Returning a creature to his hand. Keep it annoying if they want to be weird with you. Constellation Border. Gravebreaker Lamia for a 5 cost. Enchantment creature. Snake Lamia has lifelink. When a Gravebreaker Lamia enters the battlefield, search your library for a card and put it into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. Spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. 4/4 lifelink. Good card. Mind Rack Harpy for a 4 cost. Flying. At the beginning of a combat on your turn, each player puts the top 3 cards of their library into the graveyard. So you're milling them out, so you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4 of those harpies to bring them down. This card is an underdog. If you have a Gray Merchant of Asphodel for a 5 cost, you should run 4 of these, but I'm only going to run 1 in here. Why? Because he is a creature zombie, and when the Gray Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Play with multiple people, you're getting all their life that they lost. Good way to get life for black. Put him in any black deck. And your devotion is however many of those symbols you see in black. That's how much life gets lost. So, you get him out late enough, get 20 or so devotion, not creatures, devotion, you could end the game. Devotion cards are good. Sleep of the Dead for a 1 cost sorcery. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, so that's 2 free hits. And then you can escape. Exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. So that's just bringing them out. So gonna go ahead and 1, 2. Gonna sleep them for 2. Charmed Sleep. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature. When Charmed Sleep enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's next unstep. So, boom. Another sleep. Put them to sleep. Can't have nightmares without sleep, so you're going to run 2 of those guys. The Final Death for a 5 cost. Exile target creature. So that's just getting rid of things. Go ahead and exile them. Fruit of Tizarus for a 1 cost. Target player loses 2 life. Go ahead, get rid of them. Get them out of there early. For an escape, exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. If you do that, if you cast it from your graveyard, then you can escape it and you can bring them back. That's all that one is. That's what an escape is. You pay the cost and then you can get him out of there because he escapes. Timurid, Chosen from Death, a Constellation card. Ooh, look at that, it's beautiful card art. For a 2 cost, legendary enchantment creature. He's a demigod. Timurid's toughness is equal to your devotion to black. Another devotion card, toughness equal. Then you can exile up to 2 target cards from your graveyard, and you gain life for each creature card exiled this way. So you can get 2 life back if you exile them, or more, depending on how long you want to play them. But his toughness is equal, so more devotion. You've only got 2 devotions in here. Towering Wave Mystic for a 2 cost. Merfolk Wizard. Whenever Towering Wave Mystic deals damage, target player puts that many cards from the top of their library into the graveyard. So he is not a Death Link. He is just getting rid of your cards. So go ahead and run you 2 of those. Farika's Spawn. Yeah, she's a Gorgon for a 4 cost. Escape. Exile 3 other cards and you can play from the graveyard. You can play her from your graveyard. Farika's Spawn escapes with 2 1/1 counters on it. So she needs to escape. When it enters the battlefield this way, an opponent sacrifices a non-Gorgon creature. Nobody really plays Gorgons, like, at all, unless you've got a Gorgon deck. Or a Death Touch deck. But yeah. You're taking cards with you. Moving on. You only run of her. Cling to Dust. Cling to Dust is an amazing card. Why? It's a 1 cost, it's an instant, and you exile a target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, you gain 3 life. Otherwise, you draw a card. Any graveyard. You exile it from any graveyard. Your graveyard, an opponent's graveyard. Just exile a creature so they can't play it. And then you gain life because you got rid of their card. And then you can escape. So if you exile 5 other cards from your graveyard, you can cast this card. So you can do that twice. And the next one, Devourer of Memory for a 2 cost. It's a gold border. Creature Nightmare. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into your graveyard from your library, Devourer of Memory gets a 1/1 until the end of turn and can't be blocked this way. Put the top card of your library into your graveyard for your alternate cost, your 3 cost. But he can't be blocked because he's a nightmare. And nightmare decks are amazing because of that. Because you own planeswalkers that give you control, and then you got cards that can't be blocked. Run 2 of those. Final card, the Glimpse of Freedom. I didn't even mean to make it that way. But here's your Glimpse of Freedom. So for a 2 cost, an instant, draw a card. There you have it, guys. A proper way to make an Ashiok's deck. A nightmare deck. You can make it any way you want. Add into the comments how you would make it. And remember, guys, Ashiok is about control, and when you control opponents, you gotta use their own nightmares against them. That's what Ashiok is about. You can make him OP like I did. You can make him for fun. You can make him for anything, really. But yeah, go ahead and like and subscribe, and until next time, guys, keep playing.